Howdy, Laoshi Lawrence McElroy here for Water Tiger School of Taijiquan. Take two. You know, these things we shoot, and they're really raw, really rough. We just slap them together and throw them up online. So we finished the first round of this one. I went to take a look at it, and this camera, it's a new one, only the second time we've used it. We noticed as we were reviewing the last video we shot with this, the Qigong one, the one focusing on the breath, that if I got close to the camera and then moved away, it stayed blurry for a while. Well, that happened in the first shoot at the top of the video, and I stayed blurry for quite a while. So we just decided to begin again. So anyway, so I hope I don't have matinee syndrome. We refer to matinee syndrome on the mat, in the room, and through the remote environment when we play several times through the same form, because we start to doubt ourselves. We get to a certain point. It's like, well, no, I've already done Parting the Wild Horse's Mane. I don't have to do Parting the Wild Horse's Mane again. That's matinee syndrome. It comes from my time in the theater. When you do a matinee performance and then you do an evening performance, you start to think, well, that can't be my line. I've already said it. Anyway. That being said, this video is on the Tai Chi side of the equation. We'll talk about that as the video unfolds. 2, it's late. It was supposed to be shot and uploaded the week of the holiday of Independence Day. We just couldn't seem to get to it. And this week unfolded with a lot of stuff going on, both me personally and through Water Tiger School. And we didn't get to it until a week after Independence Day. So hopefully, I'm not going to promise this, but we'll get to the Qigong side of the equation in a shorter amount of time, maybe in 2 weeks, so we can keep what should have been our established every 3-week schedule for now. So there's that. Also, I want to address my little black sleeve here. Even though I do Tai Chi and Qigong, I also, I guess I move, it's probably from moving weights. There hasn't been anything else that would cause it. I talk about the pull-up bar often. I also have some free weights over there. I have bursitis, and I'm just doing my best to kind of push hands with it and help govern the swelling of the bursis. I think that's what it's called. The bursis sac is what fills with liquid when you have bursitis. Who knew? I'm just doing my best to get ahead of the swelling. So anyway, so that's why that's there. And last, the t-shirt, bad dude. I really don't think I'm a bad dude. I mean, I like to think that I might know how to handle myself a little bit. T-shirt was purchased for a completely different reason. However, I have always enjoyed it, and I've done a series of self-defense seminars in some public spaces over the years, and I always wear this shirt. And then I can talk about spatial awareness, that, the bad people aren't going to wear a shirt saying, I'm about to rob you, or I'm an evil person. You have to have situational awareness to sort of see those people better. But anyway, only the second time I've worn this t-shirt. First time was way back in the beginning in early May 4th of 2020, and it was for a Water Tiger for Sachem Facebook Live video on one of our lottery pieces, Molasses. So there are 11 different lottery pieces, and it's, you focus on that particular topic. Molasses means playing the form really, really slowly, or forms or walking exercise or whatever. So anyway, so just FYI, where our Tai Chi focus is. Last Tai Chi focus, 2 videos back, was a 4-posture floor exercise, a rocking exercise of what Water Tiger School calls grasp sparrow's tail, which are the postures of ward off, roll back, press, and push. We're going to continue that today with what we refer to as 4 pseudo postures, and I'll address that just a little bit more in a couple of moments, and a lot more just as we get to it. Anyway, got through that entire set of 4, the whole video and the whole rocking exercise, and I don't think I ever used the Chinese for those 4 postures: ward off, roll back, press, and push. Now, if you follow us at all, I often say my Chinese is awful. Never studied it, I just sort of guess. Or, do online research, and that always turns out well. So what we refer to as ward off, what we call ward off, the Chinese is peng. I know, really should be closer to Pong, but I just can't bring myself to call it that because I'm that old. Roll back Lu, press Ji, and push on. So those are the 4 postures that for water tiger make up grass sparrow's tail. These 4 pseudo postures are from our form, Dragon Strikes to the 4 Cardinal Directions. And there's a history to it, and I'll tell you the history in a few moments. But anyway, they make up, I'll wait on that. See, I'm having matinee syndrome. And as our warm-up, as has been the case for quite a while now, when we've been doing warm-up, we're pulling something from the first set of Shibashi, or what some people call Shibashi, which is a series of sets. There are 8 of them, created by Lin Haosheng from 1979 to about 1990. And there are 8 different sets available on his website. Everybody does them a little bit differently, have different names, have different breath patterns, that sort of thing. Like everything we do. And each of these individual 18 exercises, some people will say Shibashi means 18 movements, some will say it just means 18, have their individual health benefits. But most people don't pay attention to that detail. They just like it because the set is fun and relatively easy to do. Although I would say it's complexity wrapped in simplicity, they're relatively simple to grasp the movements and what you're supposed to do, and to be able to do it or not really have experience with it and be able to follow somebody from like day one. And it puts you in a good mood, helps you with better general health, that sort of thing. And it's very relaxing. So what we're going to do is the second exercise in the first set for us. We've just done them in sort of a random order. However, last time we did a warm-up from Shibashi, we did the first piece, which was called Awaken the Qi. Oddly enough, Water Tiger School has a Qigong form that we call Awakening the Qi. And the second piece is called Opening the Heart. And in our Qigong set, Awakening the Qi, there is a piece called Opening the Heart. Again, everybody has different names, that sort of thing. So opening the heart for others, known as broadening one's chest, opening the chest, open the heart as opposed to opening the heart, and embrace nature. Probably somebody has embracing nature. And those are just a handful of what's probably out there, naming the second of the 18 exercises in the first set of Shibashi. So with opening the heart, I'm going to read the health benefits, because if I tried to memorize them at this point in my life, I'm not going to get that close to the camera, I would probably, trip over my tongue several times. I can read them and trip over my tongue several times, as many of you know. Strengthens and improves conditions related to the heart, lungs, and the nervous system. There's one. 2, opens and expands qi in the chest. 3, regulates breathing and increases blood supply throughout the body, including, but not limited to, the lymph glands. And the 4th, and the final in this list, reduces depression, insomnia, and hypertension. And especially when it comes to that 4th point, I need to throw in a caveat: mileage may vary. So there you go. Those are the health benefits. We're going to be shoulder wide. There's my blue lines. If you know these videos, you know if I'm going to focus on something that requires us to easily find shoulder width on a regular basis, I lay these blue lines on the floor. Shoulder width, according to Water Tiger School, where the drop of the shoulder is, that splits the heel in that side in half. Same on this side, and in our basic Mabo horse stance, feet shoulder wide and as close to parallel as possible. You may have an abduction, toes moving away from the center line, or an adduction, and if that's the case, you don't want to force them to be parallel. You want to sort of move them from wherever your angle is so you feel a stretch throughout the lower body, but not a strain. You have to determine where that line of comfort is for you, and so you don't injure yourself either. After time, in spending it in that stretched position, you'll notice, hey, I don't feel a stretch anymore, and you move them a little bit more closer to parallel, either in toward one another or out away from one another, depending upon abduction or adduction. And eventually, someday, over time, I'm not talking next week, next month, not next year, but over time, you'll start to get a little bit closer to parallel. Maybe never reach parallel, but you may, depending upon the degree of your angles. Knees are open. And throughout this set, actually, we sit down into the, most of the pieces in different ways. There's a lowering and a rising of the body. And generally, not always, the lowering happens on an exhale and the rising happens on an inhale. I'm inhaling and exhaling. And I'm flowing through that movement of breath. My knees are just opening a little, opening a little bit more, a little bit further, but I'm not really squatting. I'm not getting into a big, deep squat, and I'm not leaning forward. It's just enough of an opening and a lengthening, not locking them off. They're still open on that extension, that I get that little pump. So in Western terms, in Western medicine terms, in physical training terms, whenever you do any sort of bending of the knees, that pump starts to work the heart and the lungs a little bit more. So again, knees tracking the same direction as the toes. If you're abducted or adducted, they should follow that pattern, or pay attention to how your knees feel. And it's just a little Oompa Loompa thing. And as always, if you don't know what an Oompa Loompa is, Google it. Oddly enough, there's a lot of oddly enoughs today. Another oddly enough is that the previous exercise we did, Awaken the Qi, this was the inhale, rising up. This was the exhale, sinking down. Notice the wave of the wrists, the continuous movement and breath, and in a way, opening the heart. I'm going to use the S word here, simply builds on that. Here's the inhale. Now I stay further up out of my legs on the exhale. The opening happens immediately. Inhale, palms move toward palms, and then the exhale, palms turn down, and I sink down. But notice, inhale, exhale. I'm not pulling back here. I'm staying in the front plane of my body. Inhale and exhale. So I want to keep my sunken chest, my rounded back, crown point of my head over the base of my pelvic bowl, spine hanging like a string of pearls. Lin Hao Shang refers to this not as Qigong, but as Tai Chi Qigong. Not necessarily because it's Qigong based on Taoist theory, like Tai Chi Chuan, Grand Ultimate Fist, Grand Ultimate Qigong. It's Tai Chi Qigong for Shibashi, because he's well known in the Qigong community, has been for a long time. He was introduced to Tai Chi, and he wanted to combine the two. So within the set, there are things that very specifically relate to Tai Chi, much more directly than saying this is slightly related to something like white crane opens its wings or spreads its wings. Some of the exercises look almost exactly in the upper body like actual Tai Chi postures. And just a reminder for the last, let's say, 3 repetitions. I actually do 6 total. I'm going to shut up for these 3. So I'm sitting down into my legs, rising up, not straightening them off. Here's the inhale. Here's the exhale, staying up out of my lower body a little bit. So in other words, the legs are a little bit straighter. Inhale. Exhale, sinking back down into them. Inhale and up. Staying up for the exhale and open. Inhale and in. Still staying up out of the lower body. Exhale and settling back down. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. I'm sitting down into the lower body. I'm going to close. I'm going to use a standard Water Tiger School closing. Yes, there's a specific closing for Shibashi, but when we pull an individual piece out, we just close the way we would most anything else. As the hands float up, I'm going to repeat that. As the hands float up, one more time, going back to where I was. The weight, the vertical alignment, the balance, the structure settles through that right leg into the earth. As I draw the foot in, the hands come in, two things together. Hands draw in, foot comes in. Hands go down, heel goes down, redividing the weight equally between the 2 feet. And notice I lengthened there. And now I'm going to shorten, I'm going to shorten, I'm going to shorten, and that movement pulls the hands into the dantian. And that's the way we close at Water Tiger School. Something happens downstairs, something happens upstairs. So that gets us, I don't know why I do that, I just do. That gets the upper body and the lower body doing something together. I'm not just lifting up the arms and then moving the foot in and then putting the hands down and then doing this. Everything has something that happens both upstairs and downstairs. The arms move up and away from the body, just kind of like they did in Shibashi. Then they come in and the foot comes in. I keep the heel in the air, so I have something to do. I'm going to sink down this time, though, to press the heel down and redivide the weight, and then stand up out of the lower body. And that pulls the hands to the acupuncture point for the Shia Dantian, between the belly button on the center line and the pubic bone, but closer to the pubic bone than the belly button. We'll do some casual close as we do the floor exercise, the rocking exercise of the 4 pseudo postures. This little section coming up, not sure how long it'll end up being. If you don't like lectures, you might want to sort of jump ahead a little bit. I just want to give you a little bit of history of these 4 pseudo postures. So again, initially we did ward off, roll back, press, and push. Those 4 postures that we call grass sparrow's tail, also represent the first 4 energies of the 13 root energies of taijiquan. These 4 pseudo postures represent the second 4 energies: pluck, split, elbow stroke, and shoulder stroke. And then the final energies of the 13 root energies of taijiquan are directions: forward and back. For us, bow to the left, look to the right, and center equilibrium. That's 13. By the way, like we talked about in the last video, below in the description of this video will be hyperlinks, or are hyperlinks at this point. If you're watching this, I've put them there. Are hyperlinks to a playlist on this YouTube channel of the 13 root energies that includes a video shot in the early days, so not as good sound, not as good video, on, I believe it was April 1st, 2020, for the first 4, talking about those energies. The second 4 was shot a few days later on the 3rd of April of 2020, and the third video on the 5 directions shot a few days after, like 3 days, on the 6th. So those are all down there. A little bit different than the presentation in the last video and what we're doing in this video, but still talked about the 13 root energies. So those are all down there. The origin story for where these came from. That's what's next. Matinee syndrome, sorry. I was first presented these 4 pseudo postures as walking exercises in a different style of Tai Chi. I was taught them by my former instructor. The reason that he is a former instructor is that I learned from him medium frame, young style Tai Chi. I stayed there when he went to a different style, which I'm not going to name. And the head of that lineage developed these walking exercises these pseudo postures to help students of his lineage and his style understand the second 4 root energies. Interestingly enough, the walking exercises only involved one hand to represent the energy. So if you put that in the context of ward off, it would be this. And roll back would be this, and press would be this, and push would be this, if they did the same thing for the first 4, or something along those lines. I couldn't abide that when I started to build my experience with them on my own, so I added the backhand. And we, at one point in the past, in the early aughts, this all happened, the initial learning, my first experience with these 4 pseudo postures. So in the early 90s, in the early aughts, one of my first students, when I started doing this full time, asked, hey, can we put grass sparrow's tail and dragon strikes to the 4 cardinal directions in the same form? So grass sparrow's tail to the 4 cardinal directions, dragon strikes to the 4 diagonal directions. Can we smash them together? And I said, that's an interesting idea. So we came up with what we called the 13 postures. Oddly enough, told you there's a lot of those today. Not that long ago, Ba Fa Wu Bu was created. So we've been doing the 13 postures our way since the early aughts. I first saw Ba Fa Wu Bu, 8 methods, 5 steps, or it's 5 steps, yeah, 5 steps, 8 methods, 5 steps, during home lockdown, or maybe a little bit after home lockdown. So my initial impression was that it was a child of the pandemic. Like a lot of the walking exercises that we've presented over the last 5 years here, not all of them, but a number of them came from home lockdown and my developing things for my students that would take less space than playing in entire forms, and if you couldn't leave your house. But anyway, this was actually developed prior to the pandemic in 2018. The General Administration of Sport of China, or Sports of China, I'm not sure, decided that they wanted another simplified form for the citizens. And they commissioned some Tai Chi instructors to develop what became Ba Fa Wu Bu, 8 methods and 5 steps. So 13 root, or 13 postures, our form. We call it 13 postures instead of 13 energies because when it was first created, I, like other people, used the word posture instead of energy for the 13 root energies of Tai Chi, or the 13 root postures of Tai Chi. There you go. That's the history. Now you can join us again if you stepped away. So, as a rocking exercise, we need to be in our 4 stance. So our 4 stance, we're shoulder wide, heels split in half on the 2 lines where the drop of the shoulder is on one side, the drop of the shoulder is on the other. And for our first stance, I'm going to step the left foot forward, so the right foot's going to be the back foot. If the right foot is the back foot, it's somewhere out around a 45-degree angle. So my heel's not quite split in 2. There we go. So I'm not quite at a 45. That's okay for you too, right? If you need to be a little bit more shallow, this side, I have different reasons for the 2 sides for being a little shallow. This side, as well as the bursitis, I have a little thing with my knee. Not necessarily weight related, but other exercise related. Plus, let me do the math, 63. Almost 63 and a half at this point. But the toes are out at an angle. My left foot's going to be a little bit closer. Now when I square off my hips, notice I said that, square off the hips. I'm not here when I'm 4-weighted. I actually allow the turn to fill that foot. Knee over ankle safest, knee over the top of the foot. Okay, knee over toes are definitely beyond toes, not good, in 4 stance. Right, and I want to make sure the front toes are forward, right straight toward the camera, or angled in slightly. I don't want to be in 4 stance and have the front toes out here. So if they are out here, then you have to change the angle of the back foot and find a place where you can orient your body the same direction as your knee. So, 4 stance, about 70% of the weight on the front leg, about 30 on the back. Back foot is grounded, heel is down, outside of the instep is flat. I turn back toward the right leg to settle the weight into the right leg, but I don't push the knee sideways. It doesn't swing like a saloon door, or you too will have issues with that knee. Right? You sit down into it, knee stays the same direction as the toes. A lot of people call this a 4-6 stance because they believe 40% of the weight's in the front leg, 60's in the back. We usually refer to it as a 3/4 back stance. And then turn forward. So we're actually closer to, 75-25 or maybe even 80-20 at this point. And back. And the previous set, grasp sparrow's tail to the 4 cardinal directions, had a different version of the different back stance. At one point we did full back stance. So it was from back stance, 3/4 back stance to 4 stance. It was 3/4 back stance to 4 stance. It was full back stance to 4 stance. In dragon strikes, rocking, you start here and turn forward and turn back and turn forward twice and back and turn forward thrice and back and turn forward quattro. 4 times. Shake that out. We're not going to close. Here's for us, that was a left 4 stance. For us, this is a right 4 stance. For others, they would call this a right 4 stance because to get into it, you start the weight in the right side and move into the left. We call it a left 4 stance because when we're done, the left foot is forward. We consider the same on this side. So this is a right 4 stance for us because this is my right leg. This is my left leg. Here's the 3/4 back stance and forward. And if you need to, you can bring that foot with you and then turn forward and make sure the toes end forward if you bring the toes with. And again, it's just 4 times in this position and 4 times in this position. Now we will do a casual close. And those postures again, pseudo postures, pluck, split, elbow stroke, and shoulder stroke. You get a little sip. Another victim of matinee syndrome was, I wasn't sucking on a mitt when we started to shoot. I don't know what to do now. Usually I have to finish that before we start the warm-up exercise. So, you might be familiar with Water Tiger's grabbing air exercises from Shaolin Qinna, season control, that goes pinky ring middle index, and then opens pinky ring middle index. The way that we close our hands in the first 2 pseudo postures, pluck and split, is reminiscent, only the thumb closes too. But you want to feel on that closing, whichever one it is, that it's the body that closes the hand and not you going, oh, I have to close the hand. And the thumb is involved. The opening is not reversing like it is in the hand exercise. It's a blossom. And it's sort of the same thing. If I demonstrate and sort of get in a pseudo 4 stance here, a little bit closer to the camera, but not too close. As I move the, in this case, left hand, I'm in a left 4 stance. Pinky closes, ring closes, middle closes, index closes, and thumb is done at the end. And notice my palm is parallel to the earth. It's in the front plane of the body, and it's not at the solar plexus. It's not below the hip. It's kind of almost top of hip-ish. It's going to depend upon your legs, your upper torso, the length of your arms, all sorts of things. But you're not pulling back here. It's in the front plane. And the proximal phalanges are forward, so I'm not doing this or this or this. It's in this sort of floaty position. It's almost as if you were, in Parting Wild Horses mane or different postures where that hand is down. It's almost as if you're in that same floating position, but you're ending with a closed fist. And that's pluck. So, if I were doing the first posture the way it was, the pseudo posture the way it was first, I think every time I say posture, I'm going to end up saying pseudo posture. It was just the one hand. And if it in a walking exercise, then you'd switch and it'd just be the one hand. As I said, I couldn't abide that. So, this is the ready position. It was initially, it is now. Pulling in, not up, but back. Palm toward myself. Yeah, I'm hitting myself in the face. The second hand, again, not any less important than the first hand. is open. It can be a lightly closed fist if you really prefer, but I like opening. I like an open hand here. As I turn in pinky ring, middle index, thumb, notice the hand sort of arcs up, fingertips up, palm toward or slightly through the center line. And that's the end of posture for the pseudo posture of pluck. So the rocking exercise would look like this. Pinky ring, middle index, thumb. Going back into the ready position. Again, this is the ready position. And I'm not looking here. I'm looking here. There's 2. And back. And here's 3. And without a close, I'm going to change the stance. So now I'm in a right 4 stance. So for us, it would be a right pluck. And notice the feeling in the closing of the hand. That squeezing of something. Because you've drawn your opponent in, kind of led them off balance. And then as you move forward, you grab a hold of their wrist or forearm, and you're pulling, you've sort of brought them forward, and then you take them off balance to the down, your shadow opponent. And this hand that's at the hip, as you're pulling them down in this way, you're also sort of pushing them up and across. So the idea of pluck is sort of to break the horizontal line of your of the structure. But it's also, you know, pulling energy anywhere in the body. As I'm turning forward, this hip, the right hip, is plucking back. For that matter, the left hip is splitting forward. The right shoulder is plucking back. The left shoulder is splitting forward. So back to the ready position, we'll do our 3. Pinky ring, middle index, thumb once, and back. Pinky ring, middle index, thumb twice, and back. Pinky ring, middle index, thumb 3 times. And a little casual closing. So again, hands floating up and in, brings that foot in, down. And the way that we define casual closing is, and back. That closing at the end of Shibashi, peace, opening the heart, was a little bit more of what we would refer to as a formal closing. This is a casual closing. What's important is that you find a way to do it. Doesn't have to be a set pattern that allows the upper body to be connected to the lower body. So I could have finished that last pluck and come back into the back leg. I could have come back into the back leg. Let me do that again. A little bit more planned-like. And then adjusted the feet so they're parallel. As long as something's happening upstairs and something's happening downstairs. So that's the first of the 4. Pluck or shay. Now split or lie. Same pinky ring in middle index thumb, but now it has a different purpose. It's sort of possibly maybe born related to distant cousin of a hammer fist, but it's not. But so the hand's going to feel like it's doing something else. I've had students refer to pluck as sort of feeling, like I said, squeezing a piece of fruit or picking a piece of fruit. And this is closing a curtain. But you'll notice as we play that it has that wave at the end. So as opposed to a mace, now I know I won't say most people, but a lot of people call a mace the handle with the chain and the spike ball. That's actually a flail. A mace is a solid handle with the spike ball on the end. That's truly a mace. So this is sort of more of a flail as it comes back. The supporting, you don't want to call it a supporting hand. The other hand that's palm up at the hip is going to, the split hand stays high from the ready position, and the other hand stays low. Palm in toward or slightly across the center line, and now my fingers are parallel to the floor. And keep the opening underneath my arm so it's nice and relaxed, and this is split. closing that curtain. So ideally, and again, the turn back, the turn back, the turn back creates the blossom. Pinky ring, middle, index, thumb. And back. Pinky ring, middle, index, thumb. And back. Pinky ring, middle, index, thumb. And back. And now pluck. Pinky ring, middle, index, thumb. And back. And split. And back. And pluck. And back. And split. And back. And pluck. And back. And split. And a little casual closing. I was going to do that between one side and the other, but I don't know what got into it. But I did it. We may not do that when we change sides the next time. We will at the end of this one. So here's my right four stance. I'm setting that up, taking the time, making sure that feet are right and feel like that's where I need to be at this time. Knee over ankle, again, safest. Knee over the top of the foot should be okay depending upon the health of your knee. Over beyond the toes, bad. Front toes forward. And come back. And here's pluck on this side. Pinky ring, middle, index, thumb. And pluck once and back. And pinky ring, middle, index, thumb. Oops. Yeah, and back. Sorry. Pinky ring, middle, index, thumb. And back. Pinky ring, middle, index, thumb. I sort of started that incorrectly. And back. So we're going to do another one. Just split. Pinky ring, middle, index, thumb. That little wave. And now when we come back into our ready position, here's the pluck. Pinky ring, middle, index, thumb. Pluck. And back. Pinky ring, middle, index, thumb. Split. And back. Second time. Pinky ring, middle, index, thumb. And split. A second time. Pinky ring, middle, index, thumb. And back. One more. Pinky ring, middle, index, thumb. Pluck. And back. Pinky ring, middle, index, thumb. And a little casual close. I hope I got that count right. Boom. There's two. Pluck, shay, split, lie. Third, elbow stroke. Though the physical manifestation of the pseudo posture in both the walking exercise and in our presentation, the original walking exercise, and in our dragon strikes, looks like an elbow strike. It represents elbow stroke energy, which from our perspective is, one, energy that moves through the elbow, but the elbow has a two-dimensional fold. So any joint in the body, anywhere where two parts of the body move, and it's this sort of just two-dimensional fold, that's elbow stroke energy. So in the big joints through the body that you can easily see, you have the elbow, you have the knee, you have like the joints in the phalanges, etc. But all 13 root energies should be in every part of the body in every moment as you're playing your Tai Chi. Let that blow your mind. And we manifest elbow stroke energy, the pseudo posture of elbow stroke. Initially, from my instructor's style, was just the single hand. They did, I believe, they closed the fist. But again, I wanted both hands engaged. So what happens is it's the same ready position, but the arm drops down, in this case the left arm, because I'm going to move into a left elbow stroke. And as that hand closes, sort of a reverse blossom, we're not doing the finger wave closing. It sucks in the other hand behind. And you have this structure. Notice, I want a straight line, if I can, at all, elbow to elbow. And that might be difficult for some folks. A lot of folks end, and they either have a bow into or out of the alignment. But you want that all the way up, all the way down. Right? So if I were to do that as a rocking exercise, 1, back into the ready position. 2, back into the ready position. 3, back into the ready position. I almost did shoulder stroke. Oops. Let's do that last one again. Elbow stroke. Back into the ready position. Pluck. Back into the ready position. Split. Back into the ready position. Reverse blossoming, sucking that right hand in. Elbow stroke. Back into the ready position. Pluck. Back into the ready position. Split. Back into the ready position. Elbow stroke. Back into the ready position one more time. Pluck. Back into the ready position. Split. Drawing that person in and back again, a little bit off balance, pressing that arm down, and then riding that arm up to your target. And again, no casual closing between. That was a fluke the last time. And now for Water Tiger School, we're in a right four stance. Going to come back into the ready position, doing elbow stroke. The arm settles down. You have that reverse blossoming, the pulling of the hand, all 5 digits at once, closed through the turn forward, and that closing sucks in the other hand. And then back into the ready position. Arm swings down, presses the opponent's arm down, and then you ride it up to your target. And here's 3. And then back into the ready position. Pinky ring, middle index, thumb, pluck. Back into the ready position. Pinky ring, middle index, thumb, split. Back into the ready position. Reverse blossoming. Elbow stroke. Back into the ready position. Pluck. Back into the ready position. Split. Back into the ready position. Elbow stroke. And one more time, back into the ready position. Pinky ring, middle index, thumb, pluck. Back into the ready position. Split. Back into the ready position. Elbow stroke. And a little casual closing. There you go. 3. Pluck, shay, split, lie, elbow stroke, zo. Leaves us number 4. So, if you've been around the planet a few times, you may be familiar with the Karate Kid franchise. There's a scene in the first movie. Mr. Miyagi is first teaching Daniel-san how to punch. And he says, entire body power, 1 square inch. This is a square inch. Shoulder stroke, his entire power body, 1 pinpoint on the very front of the shoulder. Right? This point right here. And it's sort of as if you had the spine, instead of coming up into the head, went over to that shoulder. You have this snap, this snap, this snap, this snap of a whip right into this point. That is shoulder stroke. Like elbow stroke, it represents energy manifest as though through the shoulder. So a shoulder joint, as opposed to 2-dimension, is more 3-dimensional in its movement. So the big joints in the body that represent that would be, of course, the shoulder and then the wrist and the ankles. But any point in the body where you have that spiral that's possible, that is, from Water Tiger School perspective, that's shoulder stroke energy manifesting itself in the body. Now, it doesn't matter if this was the way the initial walking exercise was presented to me back in the early 90s, or the way that we do elbow stroke in either just a walking exercise with a single posture, within the context of the form, etc., or this rocking exercise, the hands kind of float at the waist. I don't lock them in place, even if I have lightly closed fists, which some people prefer. They're not held still. They have to be loose and move with the body. So that, I mean, right there, I already sort of did 3 rocking exercises with shoulder stroke. I come back, and I wave forward right into that point. I miss that point with my point. That point right there. 2, and back, and 3. And then I come back into the ready position, and the 4 postures together look like this. There's pluck, and back. Here's split, and back. Here's elbow stroke, and back. And here's shoulder stroke. I'm going to freeze here for a moment just so you can see. I'm not leaning into this. Right? In the long form, we have a shoulder strike that tends to be toward the top of the shoulder, depending upon your lineage. Here it's that point. So I'm just snapping that point forward like the end of a whip. And then I pull back. That was 1 in 3 repetitions. Or we'll go to 6 with all 4 postures, pseudo postures. See, I told you. That would be my, I'd always have to correct postures to pseudo postures. And back. And elbow stroke. And back. And shoulder stroke. There's round 1. And back. And pluck. And back. And split. And back. And elbow stroke. And back. And shoulder stroke for 2. And back. Ready position. Pinky ring, middle, index, thumb. And notice the first 3 postures, every one has this draw in. It's not up out here. I have to draw them in a little bit off balance in their structure to then be effective in what follows. Elbow stroke. Shoulder stroke. I'm not sure if that's 2 or 3. We'll call it 3. Oops. See, I got to talking. Pluck. And back. Now we're going to call it 2 in this 3. Split. And back. Elbow stroke. And back. Shoulder stroke. So that's 3. So 3 more. Pluck. And for this 3, don't faint. I'm not talking. Two. Three. And without a close. Sitting up in our right 4 stance. Now, I understand why people would call this a left 4 stance, starting with the weight in the left foot and then moving to the right would be a left 4 stance because you name it because that's where you started. We go by where we finish. Not sure how this all works with exalting the journey, but anyway, we go by where we finish. So for us, this is a right 4 stance. I understand the other way. I have no qualms about it. It's not wrong in any way, shape, or form. From my perspective, I just like my way better. So shoulder stroke is a walking exercise. Again, arms loose and relaxed. You can do the lightly closed fist if you want, as long as that doesn't become, arms locked. And here's entire power body, 1 pinpoint into shoulder stroke once, and back, and shoulder stroke twice, and back, and shoulder stroke 3 times. And this time when I come back, set up the ready position, draw them in, pinky ring, middle index, thumb, pluck, and back, pinky ring, middle index, thumb, split, and back, reverse blossoming, sucking in that left hand for supporting the elbow stroke, and back. Here's shoulder stroke. Here's round 2. Pinky ring, middle index, thumb, into the posture, ready position, split, into posture, that wave, ready position. Elbow stroke, were I to call an end of posture, I would be about here, and then following through, and back, shoulder strike, stroke, not strike. Here's 3, pinky ring, middle index, thumb, and back. Feel the squeeze as opposed to this closing. You should actually be able to feel a difference in the energies between the two ways we close the hand. Now the last 3. The last 2. The last 1. A little casual closing. I'll actually do it differently so you can see. How it doesn't have to be the same, hence casual. As long as the lower body and the upper body are both doing something at the same time. That's what counts. That's what you aim for when it's not a formal closing at the end of something. So there you go. For Water Tiger School, that's Dragon Strikes. In form version, it's Dragon Strikes to the 4 diagonal directions, which sort of balances out Grasp a Sparrow's Tail to the 4 cardinal directions. And then we do a shuffle. It's not really a smash as much as it is a shuffle, where we do a section of Grasp Sparrow's Tail, then a section of Dragon Strikes, and then a section of Grasp Sparrow's Tail, and a section of Dragon Strikes. So we shuffle, and we call that the 13 postures. And just again, a reminder, some people do refer to the 13 root energies as the 13 root postures, and that's where I was when I first developed the form back in the aughts. So it's always stayed that way. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope it give you, at least some food for thought, even if you don't agree with what I presented, that it's something to contemplate and chew on, and maybe that will direct you to go out and find Bafa Wu Bu somewhere. Maybe it won't. And as always, we do ask YouTube to allow us to preview comments, not because we want to get rid of criticism. Constructive criticism, always welcome. Flaming, not so much. But we do that primarily to avoid getting spammed with, people looking to either date you or provide you with dates, or to tell you all about how they've made millions of dollars doing this, that, or the other thing. So sometimes YouTube lets us do that, sometimes they don't, and just post the comments regardless of what we ask them for. And then we'll also do a link to this on our Facebook page, which is a little bit more free range, but sort of the same thing there. You flame us there, or you try to sell advertising on our page, and you won't be there very long. So hopefully in 2 weeks, might be 3, we're back to the Qigong side of the ledger. Our plan at this time is to do a cutting of our second image-guided meditation. Back in 2020, we did a cutting of our first image-guided meditation known as flowing relaxation. This one is oneness. It won't be the whole guided meditation. So it's going to be a much shorter video because the guided meditations run something like 20, 25 minutes long. Since we're doing a cutting, it will be much shorter. So it won't be, let's see, where are we? We're almost at an hour on this video today. So it'll be like, 15 minutes or so for the guided meditation in probably 2 weeks, but it might be 3. And then we haven't really thought about what's next up in the Tai Chi rotation. We have some things on the list, but we haven't really determined what might be next. So there you go. Again, thanks for your time and attention. I hope this was helpful, entertaining, something on the positive side of the ledger for you all, and you'll see me next time. Ta. And hopefully I stayed unblurry through the whole video.